Good morning, everybody. Here we are back at Community Drama Live. Now, listen, guys, that was our warm up. So I'm being ever so lazy today. But I don't know whether you remember that. That was our warm up we did a while back, where we all had to create a machine. So, guys, can I just say it's really good to be back. Last week, as you probably know, I was not feeling brilliant. So I had the week off and we watched Under One Roof 1, which was really good. Nice to see you guys up the side here. Alla, Roz, Margie. I know Joe Robson's joining us. I can see other people are there. If you want to write stuff up the side, it really is great. You know, just so you can say hello to everyone. And we've got a really packed show this morning, a really packed drama class for you. What we're going to do is I was having a little think over the half term, and I want to make this a lot more interactive in the sense that actually we're probably going to have to be like this probably till after the summer holiday. So we've been experimenting with stuff like Zoom, and we've done quite a few bits of drama, like we did the Mechanicals from Midsummer Night's Dream when it was Shakespeare's birthday. We did Star Wars special, if you remember, and it was really successful. So what we've got today is we are actually focusing on playwriting. For those people who perhaps are joining us who don't normally come or don't know what Unleashed Community Drama is. Unleashed Community Drama, we are a completely inclusive group that meets normally every Thursday morning from 10:30 to 12 at Magdalena. This is great. We normally meet from 10:30 till 12, and it's for people who a lot of our guys have been either ex-homeless, or a lot of our guys have have struggled with addictions, and perhaps on a 12-step program or in some sort of rehab project. We have quite a few people who just come who perhaps feel isolated, anxious, perhaps mental health issues. But it's a completely inclusive group. It's literally for everyone. So we meet every Thursday morning, and we basically just have a lot of fun. Drama is a really healing process. My background is I've acted all my life. I've done a bit of professional work, but primarily on the amateur scene circuit, particularly here in Torquay. Done masses, and I'm passionate about it ever since I was about 8. I've been passionate about theatre and performing arts. And so Unleashed Theatre Company was set up, about 15 years ago. And then Unleashed Community Drama, we just celebrated our 6th birthday. And it is specifically community projects, bringing community together to put on very large scale projects. Next year, we just launched, we are doing a big community production of What's So Amazing About Grace, which is a big community play written by a guy called Neil Pugmire. We were the very first people to do it, believe it or not. We did it about 11, 12 years ago. And loads of parts. We had a cast of about 50 in it. It was fantastic. My dear friend Simon wrote the music. So that's going to be really exciting. Whereas the first time we did it in the open air at Buckfast Abbey, this time we are doing it. At the Little Theatre. So we're even able to do a matinee, which is great. Now we're going to start, guys, with first of all, though, because we are going to do some practical stuff. Something to shout about. We have quite a few birthdays, and there are quite a few birthdays. 2 people particularly today. It's their birthday. So Molly, if you're watching, Molly Cree, Molly, happy birthday. But also, it's the lovely Josie. Bless you. It's your birthday today. Josie is one of our leaders. She's also a trustee of Unleashed Theatre Company. She's a wonderful person. She does so much for other people, and she does so much, particularly within the group. So I want to say, I want a big Margie up, Josie up. I want a big Josie up. Happy birthday, Josie! All you do, fantastic. It's also, believe it or not, on Sunday, and we have a new avatar. Calvin! Now, Calvin will be appearing later today because I don't know whether you know, a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, he was in the doghouse. He wrote this poem. Hilarious! But he's been in the doghouse. He's been lying in the chokey ever since. I think he's going to redeem himself today with poem number 2. So anyway, it's Calvin's birthday on Sunday. And I just want to say how much I appreciate this guy. Seriously, we couldn't do what we do without our wonderful volunteers, Margie, Josie, Calvin, Mark. You know, you guys are real stars. You know, you do lots of supportive work, and it's you know, actually on a Thursday morning with a club, so it's really good. I'm just having a look here. There's lots of people writing stuff. This is great. This is great. Sharon, hello, lovely. Sophie. Laura, thank you for your lovely text, lovely. I'm sorry I haven't replied. I'm just rubbish with text at the moment. But you sent me a lovely text asking how I was. So, guys, I am much better. Now, we've got loads to pack in, so I'm going to crack on. What we're going to do today is we've got a new Throwback Thursday. Oh, my gosh, it's so exciting. Millennium Mysteries. Millennium Mysteries. We're going to be looking at that shortly. But first of all, what we're going to do is we have got a new challenge. Okay, write a duologue challenge. So, guys, like I said, I've been thinking about how we can make it more, if you like, active, you know, sort of more challenging, the drama group in terms of what we can do practically, rather than it just be something to entertain you and look back on. So honestly, when we come out, we're gonna have so much material. Some of the Corona songs you've been writing, fantastic. The poems you've been writing, fantastic. I've had the odd monologue, really fantastic. So keep the stuff coming. Joseph rang me early. Joe Robson is in the house. Joseph, I'm waving at you. Can you see that? It's so good to see you. Hello, Martin. Can you see me now? I can see you, Joseph. So this is great. And we've got a few people who have now got little iPads. Excitement! So we've got new people like Danny Ross and other people who are going to be jumping on, which is fab. So we're going to do, though, the duologue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some duologues. A duologue is basically, it's a short scene with 2 people in it. It's a 2-hander. And I want you to see whether we can write some stuff that we can then do via Zoom, and we can show it. So we can actually act this out. Now, this is really, really possible. All our Zoom stuff we do the day before, and we practice it. When we did the Star Wars stuff, when we did the Shakespeare stuff, we did it and we practiced it. Okay, so I'm going to show you 4 duologues back to back. Okay, they're really good stuff that we've done. Okay, and then we're going to comment on them. Okay, so here we go. Here we go.
Hello.
Hello.
I've seen you before.
Where?
You were playing with some other boys up near my house.
Do you live up in the park?
Yes. Are you going to come and play up there again?
I would do, but I'm not allowed.
Why?
Because me mum says.
Well, my mummy doesn't allow me to play down here, actually.
This is sweet.
All right. What? Here.
Can I have another one for our Sammy?
Yes, of course. Take as many as you want.
Are you soft?
I don't think so.
Round here, if you ask for a sweet, you've normally got to ask about 20 million times. And you know what?
What?
They still don't really give you one. Sometimes our Sammy will give you a sweet, but you've got to be dead careful if our Sammy gives you a sweet,
Why?
because he's usually read on it first.
Oh, hey, that sounds like super fun.
It is if you're our Sammy.
Do you want to come and play?
I would do, but not now because I'm pissed off.
Pissed off? Hey, you say some smashing things. Do you know any more words like that?
Yeah, I know loads. You know, like the F word.
Pardon?
The F word.
Oh, fantastic. When I get home, I'll look it up in the dictionary.
In the what?
The dictionary. Don't you know what a dictionary is?
Of course I do. It's a thingy, innit?
A book which explains the meaning of words.
Yeah, the meaning of words. Our Sammy will be here soon. I hope he's in a good mood. He can be dead mean sometimes.
Why?
Because he's got a plate in his head.
A plate in his head.
Yep. When we were little, our Donna Marie was looking after him when my mum was at work, and he fell out of the top window and broke his head. And they rushed him to hospital and put a plate in it.
A plate? A dinner plate?
No, our Sammy's head's not that big. I think it was one of them little plates that you have bread off.
A side plate?
No, it's on the top.
And can you see the shape of it in his head?
If you look under his hair, yeah, probably.
You know the most smashing things. Will you be my best friend?
Yeah, of course I will.
What's your name?
My name's Michael Johnston, but everyone calls me Mickey. What's yours?
Edward Leons.
Do they call you Eddie?
No.
Well, I will.
Will you?
Yeah. How old are you, Eddie?
I'm 7.
Ha! I'm older than you. I'm nearly 8.
Well, I'm nearly 8, really.
When's your birthday?
July the 18th.
So is mine.
Is it really?
Hey, we were born on the same day. That means we could be blood brothers. Do you want to be my blood brother, Eddie?
Oh, yes, please.
Oh. It hurts, you know.
You.
Ow. Here's yours. Now this means that we're blood brothers and we've always got to look out for each other. Now you repeat after me. I will always defend my brother
I will always defend my brother
and stand by him
and stand by him
and share all my sweets with him.
and share all my sweets.
Yeah, that means we're blood brothers now. Then. Come on. Woo!
Okay, so that's the first one. Guys, what we're going to do is we've done this before, and the way we've done it before is we've said, right, okay, 2 people, okay, you've got to improvise a duologue, and you've got to walk into the scene. Perhaps one of you is already on the set, and then the other one person comes in, and there's got to be an interaction. There's got to be a revelation, and then one of them leaves. We've done that quite a few times. What I'm thinking, I'd like you to really think about how you could write a really dramatic duologue. Okay. When I worked in advertising, we used to have what's called a copy platform, which is like a who, why, what, where, when. You know, who's saying it? What are they saying it? When are they saying it? Why are they saying it? And what's the outcome? And that's a really good thing to do, even when you're writing a scene. This is one that I wrote for All the World's a Stage last year. Do you remember we did all the different ages, the 7 ages of man? And I couldn't find a script about babies. So I wrote this sketch, and it had my daughter-in-law and the very first stage performance by my little granddaughter, Orla, because Anna was playing a pregnant mother, and she was actually pregnant with our little Orla, which is fantastic. So here we go.
The midwife will see you shortly. Please come and wait here in the waiting room.
Oh, thank you.
You all right?
Oh, I think I can feel it kicking.
You know why that is, Tracy, don't you? Because he's going to be a fantastic footballer.
How do you know? And anyway, it might be a girl.
Well, girls can play football as well. Admittedly not quite as good.
Leave off. That's a bit sexist.
I can see us now, out in the field, kicking the ball around together. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be great.
I kind of hope it's a girl. Oh, think of all the cute things we could buy for her. What should we call her?
Oh, do you know what, Tracy? I haven't really thought about that yet.
Well, you know those celebrities? Quite a lot of them call their babies after, like, where they were conceived. You know, like Brooklyn or India.
I'm not calling our baby Slough.
Slough? It wasn't Slough.
What, you remember after Mercedes' 21st, in that groggy B&B near the 3 Tons pub in Slough, up the road from the Mars factory, you know that one?
Oh, yeah. Maybe not. Well, I mean, it's also quite common to call them after, like, a fruit, like apricot or apple, you know, something a bit exotic.
What's wrong with a normal name?
Well, it's just, well, this baby's really special to us. I'd like them to have a special name.
What, like pineapple? Or kumquat?
We're not calling our baby Kumquat. I just mean, I don't want to just call them, like, Darren or Wayne. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what, Gary? I've been thinking about it, and I quite fancy a water birth.
What's one of them when it's home?
Well, the last time I was here, you know, when you had to work, the midwife was telling me all about these water births. But you're in, like, this big room with a big pool, and then there's, like, dolphin music playing, and it's all calm and lovely.
So you're telling me that you're going to have our baby in a swimming pool with dolphins? Are you having a laugh?
There's not actual dolphins. It's like a proper room here. I think it's like got like a big hot tub type thing, and the baby like comes into the world all calm.
What else do they do? Do they do like some kind of like circus themed burst where you fire the baby out through a burning hoop with clowns juggling in the background?
Oh, you're just being silly now.
Am I going to have to wear my goggles and my flippers and all that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask. I hope it doesn't hurt.
Ah, well, about that. My mate Terry down the pub, he said it feels a bit like pushing something the size of a melon through something the size of a lemon. Or just like grabbing hold of your top lip and ripping it right over the top of your head. Like this.
Oh, Gary, that's not very helpful.
Oh, no, it's going to be all right, because you're going to have, like, dolphins nuzzling up to you, making you feel better.
Gary, I said there's no actual real dolphin.
Listen, I'm going to be there for you, in me goggles and flippers. I'll even dress in a little dolphin suit and nuzzle up to you, make you feel better.
You're so silly sometimes. But I do love you, Gary.
Oh, I love you too.
The midwife's ready to see you now. Please come through this way.
Oh, do you know what, Tracy? I've got a perfect name for our baby. Why don't we call him Flipper?
Okay, so guys, I'm going to show you one more, and this was from the Cross and the Switchblade. And the idea being, guys, is that your monologue, your duologue, can literally be anything. It can be comedic, it can be really dramatic, it can be quite thought-provoking. I mean, if you wanted to do something literally about the lockdown, Alan Bennett, we are going to do a thing about monologues another week, but Alan Bennett's Talking Heads, really famous, where basically it's a couple of You know, it's basically just one person talking, and absolutely fantastic writer, Alan Bennett. But with this, what I want you to try and do is I want you to try and write something. I think most of you have got your packs now. In that, you would have got your, you know, a sort of a pad, writing pads, drawing pads, pens and what have you. I want you to get really, really creative, and I want you to submit this so that we can actually then cast it and actually film it as Zoom and do it as part of, you know, part of our repertoire. This is a really fantastic duologue, and David Robertson, who we're going to have on shortly, he wrote this. This is part of Cross and the Switchblade. This is from Cross and Switchblade, and it's Alexa and Ed in the psychiatrist scene, but it's absolutely phenomenal.
Hurry.
I thought we might try something new today. I want you to draw some stuff for me. Would you like drawing?
Ain't no kindergarten that's gonna draw no stupid pictures.
It's just a picture, Nikki. There's no wrong answer. Now, I'd like you to draw me a house.
Okay, give me some colors.
Well, that's good, Nikki, but tell me, why did you put such a big door on the house?
That so the stupid shrink could fit a fat head through it.
Oh, that's funny. But I don't accept your answer. Give me another.
I put a big door so I could run through quickly when somebody's after me.
Some people use doors to get in.
Well, I don't. I use them to get out.
Okay. Let's try something else. Let's try a tree. Oh, I see you've added a bird. Do you like them?
No. I hate birds.
Why?
Because they are free. Now forget about the bird. The bird is dead.
Okay. So we got a dead bird on our hands. But why did you kill it for being free? What do you care if they're free?
I don't know. I just hate birds. I hate birds most of all. So what?
Yeah, but why? Because they're free. You're not in jail yet. You're free too.
No, I'm not.
Why?
Because I gotta see you.
For like an hour a day, Nikki. Why aren't you free?
The judge tells me what I gotta do.
That's not a real reason.
And I gotta see you.
Tell me the truth. There's some other reason you're not telling me. Now, what is it?
I told you.
Why aren't you free?
I don't know. I don't know, okay? Who the hell do you think you are anyway? You think you can get me to draw some stupid pictures and ask some dumb questions? And then you get to know me? You don't know me. You don't know nothing about me.
Then why don't you tell me? Is it drugs? What's holding you? What's happened to you?
Drugs? Is it drugs? I told you about me and you couldn't do shit. Do you want to get a visit from the Mau Mouse, huh? Because we can find you. One night you're going to get a knock at your door and we're going to open you up and bleed you stone.
You sit yourself down, Nikki. You sit yourself down, you take a moment, you take a breath, and you calm yourself.
Oh my goodness. I mean, what a fantastic scene. Okay, so those three scenes are really, really different. If you look at them, okay, I don't know whether you saw Educating Rita. Willie Russell was on the telly. It's been on the last few weeks. Absolutely fantastic play. Literally a two-hander. The whole thing is just a two-hander. And obviously Willie Russell wrote Blood Brothers. And that scene from Blood Brothers that we did is where Eddie and Mickey first meet. And they're like sort of, what is it, 6, 7-year-old or something like that. And so it's really, really clever how adults had to play, you know, children. And so the whole mannerisms, body language, all the rest of it. and the language, obviously straight away it's established, you know, sort of Eddie's really posh, brought up in a sort of privileged background, and then you know, the part that the Mickey's part, you know, of a sort of rough council estate. So straight away, the way in which they talk, their body language establishes who they are. If you look at the one that I wrote, obviously they're really small, you know, set in the, you know, the midwife's office. Straight away, they're led in by the nurse. You know, the midwife will see you straight away, so you know straight away what the situation is. I think what you're doing when you're writing something, you've got to keep it really, really simple. Keep the copy really simple. Don't try and over egg it. Don't try and put too much information in. Observe how people speak. Very often people talk over each other. They interrupt. A lot of interruptions. If you look at the really powerful one, you know, that Alexa and Ed did from Across the Switchblade, you know, interrupting, quite aggressive, you know, lots of energy. So your challenge is to write a duologue. This week I want you to get really, really creative. Now, guys, we're going to move on because we've got loads on today. Throwback Thursday. Oh my goodness, we have got a fab Throwback Thursday. Okay, we are revisiting the Millennium Mysteries. Now, the reason why we're doing that Throwback Thursday is because Millennium Mysteries, this was a thing that Unleashed Theatre Company did 2 summers ago. I know we took a whole group to go and see it. This play was written for us by David Robinson. David Robinson, wonderful guy, worked for Saltmine for about 22 years. And now he's got his own Searchlight Theatre Company. He's a freelancer and he wrote this. We've already done The Hiding Place. Obviously we did Across the Switchblade, but he wrote this specially for us. So what we did, we got together the cast, okay, and we're going to show you an interview. We've got a lovely interview with David Robinson. But we got together, like we did for The Hiding Place, we got together the cast of Millennium Mysteries, and we brought back lovely Alistair all the way from Cambridge, who was our young Jesus and Joseph, and we did this yesterday, and this was just reminiscing about the good times.
Okay, well, guys, it is so lovely to have together the principal characters from Millennium Mysteries that we did 2 years ago. We brought back all the people who were the principal characters. It's great to have Richard with us. Richard James, who played our sort of clown mechanical. Anne, it's lovely to have you. You've been with us in several productions, right from the very start. What's So Amazing About Grace and Godspell and various different other things. And it's lovely to have you. You played one of the narrators. And Alistair, you're with us. I mean, I know you're sort of locked down in where, although you are officially still at Oxford in your second year, it's lovely to have you. You played Jesus. And of course, Rachel, Ed, you were a mechanical. Rachel, you were a mechanical. Margie, Jose, you were obviously the other narrators. And Calvin, you were the innkeeper and lots of other characters as well. So guys, it's so good to have you. And we're just gonna do like we did the other week, go round, and if you've got any weird memories, Richard, it's lovely having you, our resident clown. People don't realise that actually Richard, in his other life, is a clown. So you played someone who was actually pretty much what you do as a day job.
Well, I used to be. Well, I don't do so much nowadays, really. But I was sort of semi-professional. But so it was ideal for me because there was the comedy, there was physical comedy, business, and the great thing was, I think, was actually to find things and put it out. We've got the basic script, the new script. We was able to develop it. So that was great. Yeah. Also very pleased actually because I thought being a new boy to the group, I'd have a small walk-on bar, and I'd be really happy with that, just to get into it. And every week I found I got more and more lines as the weeks went on. And eventually, I found myself, on the stage most of the time, I didn't quite expect. But it was great, really. And it's great that it all came together. One thing that really did concern me was that when we were walking around with the balloons, circling around, was that I suffered with vertigo. So the first time we did it, I got quite dizzy. And I had to sit down. Oh so I was a little bit concerned that on the night whether I could survive. Actually, but I do remember like a ballet technique. The way you position your head as you go around. So
it's called spotting.
Yeah, spotting, and that seemed to work for me. And one of the things I did like actually is when I was playing the shepherd. and I had a sheep. I used it as a puppet, and me and Ed played around with it, and that was great fun, really. The way you could play around, adapt to it.
I remember you chucking it at Alexa every night to get it on screen.
but it was nice to develop that character and build it up a bit, really, and bring the comedy out that wasn't there on the page, really.
No, exactly. Well, that was the lovely thing about the play, was that actually, because it was written for us, we could pretty much do whatever we liked. And we actually chose the setting and everything in a big top, a group of strolling players, which was just fantastic, really well. And I have to say, Richard, you and Ed were absolutely fantastic because, little and large, little and wide. It was like, your archetypal double acts. You were so tall and physical and comedic in your physicality, and Ed was so serious and, constantly telling you off. It was hilarious. Ed, what do you remember about it, mate? Because you were brilliant. You were absolutely brilliant.
I think I liked Richard. I kind of like that, the freedom to be able to, to change some of the stuff. And I think, the Jason Donovan bit was, really found that funny. But one of the things that kept stringing to mind when I was thinking of something for everyone to remember. I'm pretty sure everybody does remember that, our fear of kind of onto stage was swapped on one of the nights for a period of time for a fear of going back into the changing rooms because there was a hornet milking itself on the light. So we just and everyone would kind of stall on stage and would kind of head back out there because we just knew he was still in the room. He hadn't been dealt with. With incessant buzzing, like a really loud hornet in the room.
Well, Rachel, listen, you were the other mechanical, and I think the three of you, Richard, Ed, and you were absolutely superb. I mean, you and your coconuts and your donkey ears. Do you want to tell us about that?
Oh, it was hilarious. Every time we went, we had more props. We had this little truck that we had all these props on, and I was very defensive of this props. The people kept moving them, and I'd get quite cross. But my favourite scene, I think, was the donkey ears that had to hold on, and they kept falling off, and the coconuts as I trotted around as a really grumpy donkey. It was just, yeah.
You were superb in that grumpy role, I have to say, Rachel.
It didn't suit you very much.
No, seriously, you were brilliant. You were absolutely brilliant. And can we just move on to the narrators? Because you three guys, you had loads to do, didn't you? Josie, Margie. I mean, you really held the thing together. You were like sort of, if you like, the glue between all the different transitions from the scenes with the monks to, the different Bible stories. And how did you find that? Because, you sort of, hadn't done anything with us for a while, so it was lovely to have you back.
Great experience. What I remember most is what I forgot, really. That moment, it felt like hours, but I know it wasn't that long, but producers were great actually, and I just couldn't. It was just totally blank, but I could feel the love in the room. It was great, yeah. And then everything went fine, and then carried on sort of thing. But yeah, I felt that God was in the house really.
I mean, certainly. I mean, it was a really thought-provoking, yet at the same time, I think it's one of the funniest plays it's certainly the funniest play Unleashed Theatre Company have done. Mark, Jose, what's your sort of remembrance of it? Because you, in a way, you had the most serious parts, and I always felt for poor Josie and Margie because all the best lines, originally the way it was written, was that I think Ed's part grew, and you had lines taken off you because if it was too funny, it was considered not to be part of your character, whereas it was Ed's. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It was fine. One of the most difficult things I found is actually spending the whole time on stage, but not necessarily having a lot to say or do.
Yeah.
And that is quite a challenge. But I have to say, I was saying just now, wasn't I, about the figure of 8 in the music, trying to get that going correctly for one of the songs.
It was a work.
Those rehearsals, the number of times we did that, yeah. So it was that was good fun, but no, it was really enjoyable. Loved it, and the atmosphere was great.
Yeah, it was. Moggy, what do you think? What was your thoughts about that?
Well, I guess for the funny thing, it has to be with the animals, you know, trying to do the figure of eight. I always seem to be clashing animals with somebody else as we were going round, and that was really fun.
Those puppets.
Yeah, that's right. I always seem to bump into somebody else, like somebody else's animal. But I think for me, possibly not the funny part, but I think having the opportunity in the first half to be funny when Josie and I were
the Abraham scene.
Noah and Mrs.
Noah, when we were in the boat, that was really, really funny. I think the opportunity to be able to have the fun in the first half and then the moving part of the second half was absolutely amazing. And I think what amazed me was the fact that people from the community drama group, they did so well from switching from one to the other. And they were brilliant. And having Alistair and seeing how amazing he was as well, I think there were so many lovely memories of the whole thing and how it was just so moving and so funny as well. But yeah, I think it was just a great experience.
Yeah,
I mean, fabulous.
It was very well written, and I think the key to it is that juxtaposition between the comedy and the tragedy. That actually the reason why it was so moving was because the juxtaposition of so many comic moments and then suddenly, really moving, beautiful monologues. And Alistair, I mean, it's obviously the only thing you've done with us. And I know you were at the end of your A-levels and you were sort of getting ready to go away to uni. I mean, it was such a joy to have you in it because you brought such youthful energy and gifting. I mean, your voice and your acting ability was fantastic. I mean, how do you remember it? Because we were a bit of a rag-bag community production, really, but it was so great having you. What's your sort of, what do you remember most?
I think it was coming in as like one of the youngest cast members. Especially at the beginning, I felt very like naive and felt obviously quite sort of anxious about it. But I think you guys were all so welcoming. It was it was such a great experience. I think some of the things that I remember the most are probably the tableau scenes, especially the Last Supper, which we must have done 100 times or something before they finally got together. I think maybe. I'm not sure which was more scary, the kind of eerie silence when we did it on stage, or the breaking of the silence by you, Martin, when we're doing it in practice, and suddenly, the quiet of the tableau was sort of, broken up. But I think that tableau also it was that feeling of coming together, which I think gave the whole thing a kind of really kind of religious fervor. It was such a good experience because things did come together and it felt like God was with us like the whole way. I think that's one of the things that made it really, really memorable.
No, bless you. Well, weirdly, Alistair, we're going to show that clip because I have to say that I nicked it from the Yorkshire Mystery Plays. I went and saw the Yorkshire Mystery Plays about 3 years before, and they sort of did it, but we did it very sort of ad hoc, and it really worked where we recreated the Last Supper. Was it Leonardo da Vinci's, wasn't it, Last Supper? And it was fantastic. It really, really worked. And what I loved was the interaction when Calvin, you were in that particular scene where you were having a conversation with Alistair as Jesus, but you were out front, and Alistair was just, you were having a conversation, but you were giving out communion and then gradually recreating that famous painting. Oh my gosh, I tell you, it really works so well. But you're absolutely right. It had to be correct. And everyone had their place and everyone had to know what they were doing. But we really pulled it off. And I think with Simon's music, it was fab. It was so fab. Yeah. Calvin, what are your thoughts about it?
My take on it, I suppose, is that I think every production, there's been this wonderful sense of unity. But I think it was never more profound than in that particular production. I think we all loved it. And beyond that, I would say one or two of the outstanding scenes, Mark and Tracy.
Oh, yes.
Arimathea and his wife.
Joe and Olive.
Yeah. And do we remember Neil?
Good, yes. Yes.
Now Neil was, struggled for a bit with his lines, in the early rehearsals, but didn't he come to the fore when it was required?
Yeah.
That was amazing. There we go.
Right.
Richard Allen's boat. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I think he's still got it.
No, I tell you, Mary Mags have got it under their stage.
Yeah.
Haven't we, Ed? We nicked
Yeah,
it.
we still use it. We still,
did.
we can hold.
Up at the front of Mary Mags for about 6 months, I think. Yeah, very good.
And on that note, I have forgiven Richard for soaking me every night with the water pistol.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. That's what clowns do.
Yeah. Guys, listen, can I just say thank you so much for coming back. I mean, it was, I think it was such a wonderful production. My only sadness and regret is that we never filmed it. We've just got excerpts. It's the only one that we've never filmed, and I think there was some political thing with the Abbey or whatever, but considering it's the one that we had written for us, it's the only regret, I think, that we don't have a really good live recording of that show. I mean, it really was superb. And the fact that it was the last one that we did commissioned at Buckfast Abbey, everything has a season, and we're incredibly grateful for the patronage of Buckfast Abbey, who actually kick-started Unleashed really 10 years ago. But it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And I think the big news is, you guys already know, is that next summer, we've booked the Little Theatre. We are doing a big community production in the Little Theatre of What's So Amazing About Grace, which was the very first big community production we ever did at Buckfast Abbey. So, the work continues, the witness continues. But guys, thank you so much for coming. Alistair, particularly, it's lovely to see you again. And Dan and Richard, thank you so much for joining us. And bless you. And now we can look forward to seeing those excerpts, particularly that one you were talking about, Alistair, Last Supper, and the Joseph one, Jason Donovan, Ed. And then we've got a fantastic interview with David Robinson, bless him, who's come back specially, and got a half-hour interview with him where he talks specifically about the writing of The Hiding Place, the writing process of how he went about writing the Millennium Mysteries, and of course, The Cross and Switchblade, where I never realised he went to New York and met David Wilkerson. So we've got that coming up, which is really exciting. So guys, thanks again for joining with us, and see you all soon. Bless you.
Is that fab? Oh my gosh, isn't that fab? So lovely to see all those guys back. Now we're gonna line this up. Here we go.
Still in bed. You always got everything, Joseph. You always did everything. I know.
I was just coming in when you were just getting up.
I know, and Dad knew.
But he never said a word, did he? No matter how late I got in.
How late I got up.
Or how hard I worked.
Of course, you were always never forgotten, were you? Always got best room in the house, fancy coloured clothes at the weekend, a seat beside Dad at the dinner table, and a musical in the West End all about you. Yeah. A 2-year run at the London Palladium, and a signed photograph of Jason Donovan in a silver frame. I wanted that. I close my eyes, drew back the curtain.
And you didn't do too badly either. Double bed in case on yourself in all times of night.
Yes, all right, but I was never number one, no, was I?
I never even wanted a number. I wasn't noticed. I was forgotten. Mr. Invisible.
You were never forgotten. In your dreams, maybe. You had all sorts of dreams, didn't you? You always were a bit of a dreamer, Josie, weren't you?
Do you remember? You remember that one about the sheaves of corn bowing down?
Yeah, and the sun, the moon, and the stars bowing down to me.
What I saw was a father who loved his sons.
But not to the same extent.
Yes, to the same extent he loved us and forgave us over and over again. He needed to.
Well, my dreams were darker than yours, as is my memory.
Oh, well, maybe you should pray for brighter dreams then, my friend.
And maybe a more selective memory.
You are all forgiven for your jealousy. You know that, don't you? No matter what you can remember or recall, know this. You are forgiven, my brothers.
Right, just to set up the next one. Oh my goodness, wasn't that fab? So good. Where's the next one?
Serving the nuns. I asked him about it when they left.
The least among us will one day take the highest place, Nigel. The highest place.
Well, I didn't quite understand what he meant. So I nodded politely and I handed him my business card. I said, listen, I hope everything was to your satisfaction, but take my card if you will. It might help you to remember this place.
Everything was wonderful, Nigel. Thank you. And don't you worry. People will remember this place for years and years to come.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, looking back on that, so many happy memories, so many happy memories. So it was a really, really, it was a lovely way to go out at Buckfast Abbey. We had a great relationship. We still do have a great relationship with, but they've, the abbot has changed. And so you know, what they want people to do now is very, very different. So that was 2 years ago. We had a great, run with Buckfast Abbey, and actually it was through their patronage that it really started Unleash Theatre Company. So we've got this interview now with David Robinson, which is absolutely fab. So here we go.
Right, now we are definitely recording. This is really great. It's a bit like Groundhog Day, isn't it, David?
To be seeing you again, it's just quite a lot to do.
I know. David, it's lovely having you. David is here, and David Robinson is he is like an honorary Unleashed person, because you have written 3 of the plays we've done, and we have an association with you that goes back quite a while. We've done the Hiding Place twice, which we did in 2006 and 2011. We did, and then we worked together on the Millennium Mysteries, which you were commissioned and wrote for us 2 summers ago, specifically for Unleashed, which was commissioned by Buckfast Abbey, which is a passion play to include, obviously, the history of Buckfast Abbey. And then, of course, the Cross and Switchblade, which we have just done. So, which you obviously wrote when you were at your time at Saltmine. So, David, listen, it is so good to have you here. I'd love to just know how you got into this whole acting malarkey, and how you started out, and how you started writing, because obviously you've been in this game for a long time. Just tell us how it was.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for that honorary membership. That's a thrill. Well, 30 years ago last year, I joined Saltmine 1989. I know that because I did a little tour with Adrian and Bridget Class to celebrate that. They kindly joined me. The year before, 2018, it was 30 years since Adrian became a professional writer, or his first book published. And so we did a little tour to celebrate that. And then midway through, he said, well, why don't we do something for you next year, David? So I know that was 2019. And I joined Saltmine in the Easter of 1989 at Spring Harvest, a big Christian event. I was down in Minehead, and I'd been toying with wanting to do something in the Christian arts. I've done some acting in London, very successful and very resting most of my time, all working in marketing or box office or other bits of pieces of jobs that a lot of out-of-work actors do. Anyway, I've been all week at Spring Harvest thinking about, I wonder if there is a step into creativity within the Christian market. And anyway, at the last evenings, Dave Pope, who was in charge of Salt Mine at the time, part of the leadership there, and he just stepped forward and said, look, we want to really encourage within the Christian world. But he wants to talk that through or pray it through. Let's talk about it. And wasn't something natural thing for me to do, but I did. I ended up talking to Dave. He said, well, look, Salt Mine at the time was well known for music, but we're wanting to build the theatre company even more now, and we've got a vacancy. So I applied, and long story short, I auditioned and got in and started that summer for what I thought was a 2-year contract and turned out to be 22 years.
Wow.
And we were very, very busy doing missions, what they called church-based missions at the time. You went to a place for a week and you were just performing schools, clubs, churches, morning, noon and night. So we got through material so quickly. You know, after a few days, we were just looking at each other saying, well, we've got to write some more stuff. And so I just tried it and enjoyed it and worked. And then they asked me to head up the theatre company after a couple of years. And I just said, yeah, I'd love to do that. I've got a real, I love Salt Mine, I love the job. But is there any chance of us breaking into full length productions as well? You know, real 2 acts, 2 hours, and going into theatres and just being alongside other medium scale touring theatre companies. And to give the board their due, they said, yes, if you want to try it, we'll back you. And so we did. We did a play called The Big Screen Live at Humphrey Barton, a comedy, great fun. Took it to Stratford through a connection of Salt Mine. They had a visitors season there. Play called Christ in the Concrete City, which is a great play. Martin, be worth having a look at. And then I think the turning point, as far as getting big numbers out, was Nigel Ford from Riding Lights agreed to adapt C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters for us. And so we did that. And then after that, Judy Moore, who was in the company with me, and I adapted The Hiding Place. And Corrie ten Boom's The Hiding Place was my first attempt at dramatising a full-length play myself with Judy and getting that on stage. And that I think was another big turning point, not just for the company, but for me as a dramatist, as a writer as well. Then Cross on the Switchblade came later, again, co-written. And then I wrote a few productions myself, Christmas shows, etc., etc. And then in 2011, I stepped aside from Salt Mine and set up Searchlight with a colleague of mine, and yeah, I think gave myself a bit more creative freedom, I think. Within
And you've done an awful lot with Searchlight, haven't you? Because the last 11 years, you've been to Edinburgh pretty much every year, and you've written a play about Oliver Lauren Hardy and Woodbine Willie. I mean, you've written some really interesting stuff. Noel Coward.
Noel Coward. I made a conscious decision for Edinburgh, which sadly, of course, isn't happening this year with all that's happening, but understandably so. But I decided to get a connection with a very good venue there, Greenside, and write something, not necessarily at first glance for the Christian market, but just to challenge me creatively and writing and performing. So I got together with other members, some friends of mine, singers and actors, and we put a show on about Noel Coward and friends, and then Lauren Hardy, and then Neville Chamberlain. And they've all been very successful and sort of spurned little tours as well in the UK of them. It's only a small part of my market or my year, but I think creatively it's important for me.
Yeah. And so you said that you sort of fell almost
by accident into writing. And yeah, I mean, obviously we've done The Hiding Place a couple of times, and it is so well written. And we brought the cast together a couple of weeks ago, the two casts together. And Alexa, one of our actresses, who was fantastic as our very first choreographer, she said what was so clever was how you took quite a big book and you condensed it into a really succinct but so effective play. What would you say was the biggest challenge when adapting or writing a play? You know, even finding the idea. I mean, what would you say for you was the biggest challenge when you're thinking, right, I've got to write a production for next year? Where do you start?
Well, I think the thing about The Hiding Place is that there's so much wonderful stuff in the book. I had read it some years earlier and then revisited it and then was just amazed. And Judy and myself actually decided to sit in a room together, opposite ends of the table, and just mark out what we thought, well, this has got to stay in the stage version, this drama, and then this isn't this, and we just ended up with far too much. We both marked off huge bits of every chapter. So that, I think, was challenge number one, really, is just to say, look, this has got to be probably 50 minutes, 55 minutes, a half, and there's a huge story curve that you just don't know quite what to leave in and what to leave out. That whole first half of the family, the warmth, the birthday, and then the increasing menace of the Nazis coming, and the noise, and then the Jews arriving, and then the fear and the hiding, and just the almost the naive acceptance of that by the Ten Boom family, no matter what it's going to cost them, that they knew they had to step out and help. I mean, just some of that story arc is pretty big. And then the second half, you know, somewhat darker, and somewhat, in a way,
very dark.
Very dark, yeah. In some ways smaller, but you know, you're in a huge prison camp and concentration camp. So, but there's that sort of tender Corrie and Betsy moments. There's those very interesting Lieutenant Rams and Corrie moments as well, and just the darkness and light between those two, and then the reconciliation and the forgiveness, you know, is key to get that right. And the pain it gave Corrie to get to that moment, but she couldn't really fulfill and proceed with her ministry, she says in a number of her books, without putting her hand out and forgiving the German officer. Really, really powerful moment. So in a way, it lent itself to drama and theatre. And I think for me, it was, I didn't want to be prohibited by thinking, wow, this is a film. There's no way they can do this on stage. I just wrote what I thought should be in.
It's incredibly effective on stage. I mean, incredibly powerful. That last scene, you know, when we did it, we had people in tears pretty much every night. I mean, really, really powerful stuff. But I mean, you're really good at writing powerful stuff. Let's talk a moment for the Millennium Mysteries, because I mean, that's something very, very different, very knockabout. We did this 2 summers ago. You were commissioned to take sort of like a version of the Yorkshire Mystery Plays and put it into the context of also, you know, the history of Buckfast Abbey and how the monks came to Buckfast in the 1880s. That must have been a real challenge, you know, combining two. But what I loved was the way in which you took things like, you know, the planting of the foundation stone, you know, you tied in with Abraham, and how the actual stories, the symbolism between, you know, like the story of Abraham and starting, you know, father of many nations, and then there were lots of moments in the play like that where you paralleled, you know, the history of the Abbey with the history of the stories you were telling. How did you come up with that idea? Because it was so effective.
It was one of the most difficult briefs I think I've ever been given, Martin. So I congratulate you on that. I remember meeting you. I think it was at Buckfast Abbey, and
we had a retreat in the autumn before.
Yeah, it was lovely. What a beautiful place it is. I was reticent to think I could do it justice, really. I mean, because again, I don't know if I told you this, but I knew I was beginning to write far too much, because the mysteries in themselves, when I've seen it, is quite a long production when other people have done it, and then to weave the Abbey story in there as well. I found it quite challenging. It took me quite a long time, and I was trying to picture satisfying you as a creative, as a director, and giving actors something to work with. And I was trying to think, you know, about the abbot and the leadership at the monastery, and making sure that their brief was satisfied as well. So it was a servant of two masters in a way. And I think I decided quite early that I thought humour or the lighter side of this was going to be quite important. And I could see some of your actors getting to grips with that pretty well. And there's so much amazing humour and storytelling in it as well. So my first decision really was which part of the mysteries I was going to include. You know, the creation, the flood, the Abraham, what was going to go in, Joseph, and what was going to stay out, and then the New Testament after the interval, what needed to be in. That I thought I needed to sort out first, and I thought, well, and then I read. I mean, the Abbey was very helpful in sending me lots of stuff on the monastery and its creation and whatever, and then, you know, it being silent and then coming back to life and all the rest of it. So quite an amazing story, and the small amount of monks who were there making it happen. You know, it's a play in itself almost. So I thought, well, rather than saying let's do a history on Buckfast, it was more, as you said, what part of that Buckfast Abbey story can now easily just drop in to the mystery.
It's very, very effective.
And I think, for me, one of the most enjoyable and moving parts of it all was when I came to a dress rehearsal. I can't remember where it was, in a church, I think.
We did in the Schiller Hall, which is like their conference centre. It was a big hall. But oh no, you came to our rehearsal. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And I had no idea how far. I knew it was quite close to opening night, so I thought, well, it's going to be some way down the track. But just seeing them enjoy it and bring it to life and interact with each other, it was a really nice moment for me. And so when it came to coming to see the show at the Abbey, you know, with my family, it was just an enjoyable weekend. It was brilliant. And yeah, it was great. And the Abbey seemed pretty happy with it all as well.
They were. I mean, obviously, it was very entertaining for us. It was very, very funny to put on, and we had some great characters. Richard James, who played the tall sort of clown-like character, the Three Mechanicals, and he was great opposite Ed. You know, Ed, who also played Nicky Cruz in the Cross the Switchblade. Incredible actor. But the two of them, it was so funny. It was so funny and racial. The three of them worked so well as it was almost like the Greatest Showman type of sort of, you know, circus context that we did it.
Well, that was.
And we're going to
your setting, I thought, was brilliant for that. You know, and it was almost like, you know, a fair coming to town and putting it on for the villagers. It was a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah, no, it was great. Well, then let's come on to the Cross and Switchblade though, David, because we've just done that, and my gosh, it was such a successful production. I mean, such a successful production. I mean, a lot of work, but what I loved about it was that I would say that over half of our cast members were drawn from community drama, you know, honest community drama. So a lot of them had lived the type of life that we were portraying, and so they brought such incredible integrity to it. You wrote this, I mean, I think I must have seen it about 15 years ago at the Palace Theatre when it was on tour with Salt Mine. I mean, how long ago did you write it?
Yeah, again, it was something I co-wrote with Judy Moore again, and a guy called James Hamilton, who played Nicky Cruz opposite me as Dave Woodson in the original productions, and then other people played those roles in subsequent years. And then a guy called Richard Hasnett, who also worked with me in Salt Mine, we reworked the script a few years later for a new production. So it's gone through different versions. But again, it was a book, obviously, Cross and Switchblade and Run Baby Run I was very familiar with, and we just sought permission. The people who Ghost wrote with Corrie, The Hiding Place, are the same people who wrote with David Wilkerson, so we knew of them, and we approached them about the rights to dramatising it, and they gave the rights. And we just started delving into what was very different from The Hiding Place, but I think that's what we wanted really, something new, something challenging, something noisy with music and language, but still about darkness and light really, and the light being more powerful in the end. I think one of my most memorable moments is that we actually took the show to America at one point, and went to New York City and met up with David Wilkerson.
Wow.
Yeah, he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was away.
Did he see the play? Did he see the play?
We didn't see the play, no, unfortunately. We'd already done it, and he'd been in Florida. It was in the winter, and he goes to Florida apparently, or he did, for a number of weeks, and he was back. And we went to his church, and this was his first Sunday back, but we'd already performed it in New York. And it was like a theatre. Well, it was an ex-theatre, and the curtains came up, and there was a huge choir, wonderful music, all sorts of stuff going on. And then very quietly and almost unnoticed, he stepped towards the lectern and just spoke for about 45 minutes to an hour. Brilliant, brilliant preaching, but very unassuming. You know, you wouldn't know really his story at all. And then we'd arranged with, we'd arranged with his team to meet him afterwards. And he was, I would say, humility was at the heart of it, and that really helped me in portraying him. We talked and talked and talked. He was amazed that we were doing it. He was amazed that his story, so many years after the Cross and the Switchblade actually happened, people still want to hear it. And he went round the room asking, well, who's playing Nikki Cruz? Who's playing Israel? Who's playing my wife? And who's playing Maria or whatever? And we told him. And then he said, well, thank you so much, very much. And he never asked who was playing him at all. So I just, I mentioned it to him at the end. I said, well, thank you for the honour of playing you. You didn't ask, I hope I do it justice. And, oh, thank you very much.
I saw your production. It was really, really good. I mean, I saw it years ago, and I've wanted to do it for years, to be fair. But I mean, it came at the right time for us with the right people. It's absolutely ideal, because the message is so strong that actually rehabilitation can happen, and that, no matter how dark your life has been, that, there is redemption. I mean, it's such a wonderful.
Yeah, and I was so sorry I didn't get down to see it, but the full houses and the little clips I saw were so encouraging, as it was with seeing the Millennium Mysteries. You do a great job with all that company, and they're just brilliant, really are brilliant. So I love watching it. Twice, I think, at Buckfast.
Yeah.
And then just the little bits I've seen of Switchblade.
Yeah. Well, David, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate your time, and we've been in receipt of, your talent through, your writing several times, and hopefully maybe we can do some projects together in the future. But really thank you for writing some fantastic stuff for us, Millennium Mysteries particularly, which was written especially for us. We thoroughly enjoyed doing that. We're going to be showing some clips from that. And we picked up The Hiding Place. We did a whole club on it a couple of weeks ago for VE Day. But no, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for all the encouragement that you give us.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Bless you. You take care.
Bye-bye now.
What a guy. Oh my goodness, what a guy. What a guy. Well, this is great. I'll tell you guys, what's really exciting. What's really exciting is that this particular feature in the club I think is really great, and we've got a real treat coming up. Oh my goodness! If you saw last week, 2 weeks ago, we had Joseph Milsom on, the actor, been in Casino Royale and Angel Has Fallen. Well, his wife. Oh my goodness! What an incredible woman. She's done masses of telly. She is probably best known as Ellie McKee in Holby. She was in Holby for a couple of years. Done massive stuff. Was in Grace Point, the American version of Broadway, Broadchurch, NYPD Blues. She's been in Casualty, Peak Practice. She was in Kinky Boots. Had a main part in the film Kinky Boots. Anyway, she's joining us next week. I did an interview with her yesterday. What an interesting woman. And talking about the whole acting process. So, guys, the plan is to try and get quite a few people like this on. I think it'd be really fab. Anyway, we're going to move on. Still lots to do. It's Mark. It's time for Poetry Corner. So Mark Tootle, bless him, hasn't been on for a couple of weeks because obviously, 2 weeks ago, because obviously last week we didn't do it. But let's have a little look here. I'm going to get him on the old phone. Call Mark Tootle.
Calling Mark Tootle.
He's got a poem for us today, which is great. Poetry Corner. Hello, Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark.
Morning, Martin. You all right, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Brilliant. Absolutely great.
We have connection. This is really fab. So, how are you doing, matey?
I'm doing brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly, just thriving. I've been in that garden for quite a while. It's been great, wonderful.
Well, when I saw you the other day, my goodness, you've got such a tan. I mean, my goodness, you look really well, really healthy. Now, listen, Mark, you've got a nice, you've got a poem for us today. Do you want to tell us what it's about?
Yeah, absolutely. This one, I'm playing a bit of catch up again. It's on mental health.
Right.
So I've called the poem quite simply Mental Health, and I've subtitled the poem I'm in two minds about it.
Okay.
Are we good to go?
Yeah, good to go. We're all waiting. Your avatar's here, jumping
Right
up
then,
and down.
Morning, boys and girls. It's great to be back. Here's my poem for today. Is my mental health okay? Or is it in a mess? One voice in my head keeps saying no. The other keeps saying yes. I know someone who's arachnophobic. He's an expert with a webcam. But when it comes to interactive games, it's a big no-no for Spider-Man. My irrational fear of felines has made me decidedly fussy. It's my next-door neighbour, you see. She has a rather large pussy. Never play tennis with anal retentives. Take this to be a fact. The game goes on for ages, and you rarely get your ball back. One shrink said, I've made a Freudian slip. After some thought, I said, well, maybe. Is this the root of all my problems then? Because I wasn't breastfed as a baby. Some thoughts we have are very strange. Some deceive to flatter. The thing is, at the end of the day, it's all just mind over matter. That's it, mate. Thank you.
Oh, well done, Mark. Well done. I said to Mark this morning, he needs to collate them all into a proper anthology. And guys, if you want to write in poems and stuff, Claudia, if you're watching, lovely, I got your thing from Joe. We're still going to do some. We're still going to have them on the program. So I know other people have written stuff. We're putting together a scrapbook. So when we come out of this madness, we'll have something to show for it. Yeah. But really, that's great, Mark. Thank you so much, mate. I love your poems every week. It's really good.
Nice one.
All right, listen, you have a good week. We'll take care.
Yeah, catch you soon, mate. Okay. Take care. All the best.
Bye then.
Bye for now. Bye, folks.
Okay, now, new avatar, Calvin. Right, Calvin is going to hopefully redeem himself today, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, first of all, the poem that he did a couple of weeks ago. He's given me permission to do this. Hilarious! So let me just have a look here. Right, here we go. Right. So this was, right.
Titled Indoors. 4 weeks of Corona. I'm quite fed up. Jobs, jobs, jobs. She won't let up. I like to do the crossword and watch TV. Indoors says work or you'll get no tea. Thursdays at 8, the only time I get out to clap all the nurses and give them a shout. Then she's yakking with her mates. The world's on Zoom while I vac and dust from room to room. Our son and his girl, they work from home. Our home. However, I really can't moan. She's got them on domestics. It's not just me. While she worships the sun with a G and T.
Poor old Calvin has been in the dog's house outside since then. Isn't that right, Calvin? So what we're going to do is hopefully Calvin's going to be redeemed. Here's the new one.
Good morning, everyone. A few weeks ago, I shared a COVID poem, which unfortunately had the effect of putting me in the doghouse. But buoyed by some recent good news, I now share its sequel, which hopefully will put the record straight. It's based on a poem by A.A. Milne called Halfway Down, and it's called Half Done. Here it goes. Halfway through this plague, I've had some tip-top news. News to drive away the Boris Johnson blues. It's not about nurses, and it's not care home leaks. It's my gorgeous wife's furlough. Another 15 weeks. Halfway through our lockdown, it's looking up and isn't down. It's more like seventh heaven. No more reasons to frown. Even jobs become a joy when Her Majesty's around. And all sorts of COVID thoughts run round my head. I shouldn't be enjoying this, but it's party time instead.
Hopefully, Calvin, you're allowed back in the house. So isn't that fun? Isn't that fun? So guys, we're coming to the end, actually, but coming in a bit early. I just wanted to say, I hope you guys are all keeping well. Hopefully you should have all received. I know there's a couple of people. Newton Abbott, you're going to get yours this week, lovelies. Emma, Joe, you're going to get your little packs this week, your Red Cross pack. In there, it's got the Wellbeing Journal, which is really fab. There's loads in there to fill in and to write and to colour and to doodle and to contemplate. Just keep in touch, keep engaged. I'm really glad that we were able to do this, but I really, really would encourage you to try and write a duologue this week, setting it as a little task, really get creative. Laura, you've done some amazingly creative stuff. That Star Wars thing you did, fantastic. Just get your pens out, get the old brain cells going. Spend some time doing it. I think it's going to be fab. And then we will actually hopefully film some of them, which will be great. So guys, keep safe. It's lovely to be with you. And, you've got our numbers. So have a great week and we'll see you all next time. So take care.